Okay.
Okay, so so you're saying when you met him, he was just this wonderful, amazing, adoring, giving man, very generous with his love for you. And did you feel the same way about him right off the bat?
Oh, absolutely. I was like, this is my person, my
Yeah.
soulmate. Like, he promised me we were going to have this beautiful family and life together. And
Hmm.
just in front of everybody, too, they were like, wow, this is a great guy. Like, he was charismatic, smart, funny, and just very slowly it started to change. And he just, like, the mask came off and he was just a completely different person.
So at what point did you start recognizing those, and what little things did you see that you were like, that just seems a little off? Was there anything significant?
Well, it was very slowly. Like, he would just not want to talk to me anymore about like my day. Like, all conversations
Mm,
became about him, and he
interesting.
started to be the expert on everything, and
Mm,
anybody else's opinions were wrong. And then he would get upset over the most trivial things
hmm.
and give me the silent treatment for like
Mm.
3 days.
Oh,
And
wow.
I always felt like something's wrong with me. Like, I'm
Hmm.
broken. Like, it was just, again, very subtle.
Yeah. Wow. So you just kind of watched it and it just started to progress more and more as it
Yeah.
went on. So it never went back to the way it was. It was just always getting worse.
So maybe for like a few days, he would be loving again. So I was like, all right, good. We're back
Yeah.
normal. Like, maybe he was just stressed, had a bad day at work, and so I would chase like those breadcrumbs because I'd be like, intermittent reinforcement.
Hmm.
So, and then just one day to the next or over nothing, he would just turn into this awful person. Like, if you disagreed with him, if you didn't return a phone call immediately, like, just the rage and the screaming and like the sweat, and like his eyes would turn black, and it was just
Mm.
very, very scary to watch. So eventually
Yeah.
I stopped having an opinion. I stopped
Yeah.
doing things that would quote unquote piss him off, and I just couldn't show up for anybody, especially my sons, and
Yeah.
really started to affect me like mentally and physically and
Of
every area of
course.
my life. Mm.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry. So I had interrupted your story. So from there, where were we on your story?
Oh, so the final straw, because I kept thinking, I was like, I have to leave. Like,
Yeah.
I kept hoping it would get better. So the final straw for me was one night I was in bed and he
Hmm.
came, grabbed me out of bed. He's like, you're not sleeping in this room, go upstairs. And I knew that my son, I don't even honestly know like what he was so upset about.
Yeah. Just out of nowhere. He was just like, you're not staying here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I was like, no, like, my son comes to find me here, I'm staying. And he just was adamant that I had to go upstairs. So I went upstairs to the spare bedroom and I locked the door. And
Hmm.
then he came up, he was banging on the door, and I didn't let him in. So he like shoved the door open and he was like, I just want to let you know that I'm taking our son tomorrow. Like, our son was 3 years old.
Okay.
I said, what do you mean? He goes, you're just mentally unfit to be a mother. Like, I need to take sole custody of him. So he wouldn't tell me where or for how long or anything.
And did you feel like this was maybe his ploy all along to get to that point to make you seem crazy and not all there so that he could have access to your son by
Ab-
himself?
Absolutely.
And was he ever abusive to the son, to your son?
No, thank
No.
God he
Oh,
wasn't.
good.
I think
Yeah.
I was the trigger.
Yeah.
But of course, my son vicariously struggled, because he
Yeah.
watched me being abused. And so I called my friend and I said, at 3 in the morning, I need you to please drive up to my house with your headlights off.
Hmm.
And I'm going to be waiting and watching. And when you pull in, I'm going to just grab my son and like run like hell.
Oh my gosh.
So
You
the
must have been terrified.
the scariest, scariest thing I've ever been
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Um, so I sat there rocking him, looking through the window. And as soon as I saw her pull up, I just grabbed him. I ran. I got in the back seat of her car because I was like, you're not going to threaten to take my son, because I don't know if I'd ever see him again.
Yeah.
So we did not speak a single word on that car ride home because we knew whatever was spoken would like forever haunt us. And
Yeah.
so the next morning I called my attorney and he
Mm-hmm.
sent straight to the courthouse to get a restraining order,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't know is possible if you haven't been physically abused. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but now there's a law called Jennifer's Law, which has added the definition of domestic violence to include coercive control, which is
Mm-hmm. Huge.
emotional, psychological, mental abuse, and people are able to get those protective orders, which probably saved my life.
Yeah. Wow. So where, after that happened, did you see him again, or what happened to him?
So the judge made him stay out of the house for 30 days, which the house was in his name, but I was
Mm-hmm.
allowed to stay there, which is ironic because he always used to kick me out and throw my stuff in the street, and it was always his house.
Yeah.
So I did. I had to see him in court, and then we had to find a custody agreement because we do share a child. So he does get to see his son,
Mm-hmm.
do the drop offs and the pickups at a police station.
Mm-hmm.
And we communicate via a family app that's recorded and documented, and the judges, the lawyers, everybody can see the correspondence. So I make sure it is strictly about our son,
Yeah.
answer questions yes and no basis,
Mm-hmm.
and we just leave it at that.
And how was his behavior during these encounters? Is he acting normal, like he's the perfect guy again, or was there still signs of who he was?
Oh no, at the beginning there were signs,
Yeah.
and these like grimaces that gave me chills, but I would get to the meeting place early
Mm-hmm.
so that I could take my son out of his car seat and just have him sitting on my lap so
Mm-hmm.
that when his dad pulled up, I could just open the car door and let him go to his dad. Because
Yeah.
look at him, I was terrified. I didn't want to have to take the time to get out and do the car seat. And so slowly we've started to be civil to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Still was playing mind games. Like sometimes during the pickup, he'd be wearing a wedding ring because I guess he wanted me to think he had like gotten married. Or like the weird thing is, whenever we fought or I could tell something was brewing with him, he would
Mm-hmm.
walk around the house singing. So very strange. So sometimes during the pickups or drop offs, he'd get out of the car singing, which was like very triggering to me.
Yeah, which he knew, I'm sure, an intimidation tactic. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm. Gosh, that
Insane,
is
right?
so crazy. And so did he ever try to come and get his son back from you, or he kind of succumbed to how you were handling it going forward now at this
Oh,
point?
I got a bulldog attorney.
Oh, good for you. Uh-huh.
He just basically took care of everything. And whenever this guy like veered from the court order, like my attorney would come after him. And
Hmm.
so thank God I
Yeah.
have him if I need him.
Yeah. And how old's your son now?
He's 5.
He's 5. So this is
Yeah.
very recent still. Wow. So, and where is he at now? Do you see him, or no? Is he remarried, or is he with anybody else, or?
He has a pretty much living girlfriend.
Hmm.
And I'm sure there was always a girlfriend on the side because narcissists always need that fresh supply. Like they need to be adored and doted over. And
Hmm.
if they're not, and you don't serve their purpose anymore, they move on to fresh supply. So
Yeah.
it's a revolving door of
Yeah.
partners.
Wow. And how has it been for you to move on in that way and to trust somebody again? How's that?
I refuse to let him steal my trust in humanity.
Good.
Like I feel like people are genuinely good people.
Hmm.
I know all the red flags now of
Hmm.
relationships. I've learned to truly trust my gut, my intuition.
Hmm.
It feels off.
Yeah.
It probably is.
Yeah.
And I've put up boundaries, which was something I started out with, and he completely bulldozed over. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm cautious. I am cautious. I think I'm
Hmm.
finally ready to get out there and start dating again, which
Yes.
2 years ago, I was like, I thought I was dying and I would never move on. But like, I've really, really done a lot of work on myself. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to get out there again.
Yeah. Do you think that somebody can fall in love with you that quick, and within a week, a couple weeks, and say that they're in love with you or love you and have all these feelings for you, and for it to be genuine at that point? Or is that something now that just triggers for you like, I don't think that's real?
Yeah, no, that triggers me because with my ex, it all happened very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And now I really want to get to know somebody like before I commit or even do anything with them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a totally different mindset, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. I'm really sorry that happened to you. And I'm glad that you were able to turn lemons into lemonade and do what you're doing to help other women. That's really fascinating. So for those who don't know, what exactly is a narcissist, and what are the key signs to kind of recognize if you're experiencing narcissistic abuse in a relationship? What would they look for?
So narcissist personality disorder is a mental health condition where these people just feel superior. They think they're above everybody, including the
Mm-hmm.
law.
Mm-hmm.
They need excessive admiration and like people to just dote on them and put them on a pedestal. And um but nobody really knows deep down how bad it is. Like
Yeah.
everybody the word narcissist, it's like a buzzword, and it drives me crazy because
Yeah.
they don't realize these people are evil.
Yeah.
They manipulate. There's always an agenda. They always need to do stuff so that it serves them.
Mm-hmm.
They have zero empathy, zero remorse.
Mm-hmm.
And they're extremely abusive, like mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and sometimes physically.
Mm.
It goes far, far deeper than I think people really know.
Do you think it stems from, I've heard often it stems from maybe abandonment issues, and that need to have people, like you said, doting on you and telling you, I've encountered the same thing with a past boyfriend who needed somebody on the side just constantly, just to tell them how great he still looked, or, things like that. Didn't actually want to pursue anything, but just needed to hear that. Is that that's kind of a sign of something like that? And I think often it starts back with abandonment issues of somewhere they didn't get that, right? When they were younger.
I think it has a lot to do with their childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes their own parent, one of them or both of them were narcissists.
Mm-hmm.
Narcissists are not able to see past their own needs. So when they
Yeah.
have children, they cannot be there for their children because they don't recognize their needs.
Yeah.
Narcissists have extremely, extremely fragile egos.
Yep.
Like on the outside, they appear to be the opposite. So to your point, I think, yes, feeling abandoned in childhood and
Mm-hmm.
feeling that they need to get what they didn't receive in childhood
Yeah.
from they feel like they've earned it. Like
Yeah.
they're
And what does something like that do, this narcissistic abuse, to somebody, like an individual's emotional feelings over a period of time and their psychological well-being? What does it even do to something like that?
oh, it completely erodes self-esteem, self-worth. You've been
Yeah.
fed toxic thoughts that your whole life, and they've made you believe that you can't be anything without them.
Yeah.
You doubt yourself, you lose yourself, like essentially you completely lose yourself.
Yep.
You can become agoraphobic, have
Mm-hmm.
insomnia, like super hyper vigilant. And then mentally, like your brain chemistry is altered because after
Mm-hmm.
so much trauma and your amygdala is just always screaming and you're in fight or flight, and it messes with your neurons, your brain neurons. But the good thing is our brains are malleable, and
Mm-hmm.
neuroplasticity, like we can retrain our brain to start functioning at full capacity again and
Mm-hmm.
return to a neutral state. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this abuse is no joke.
Yeah.
June 1st is World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day. Like that's how bad this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
Yeah, so
yeah.
many
Wow.
and yeah, yeah.
Gosh. Well, let's turn your story a little bit into kind of what you're doing now to help other women, to face it, to deal with it, and to recognize it. But what kind of strategies or steps do you recommend for someone who's trying to break free from an abusive type relationship like this? What would you recommend?
I would recommend educating ourselves as much as possible. Like
Hmm.
really Googling it and podcasts and just really understanding what this situation is,
Mm-hmm.
coming to the realization that these people will never, ever, ever change.
Yeah.
And
They don't, right? Like once a narcissist, yeah, because that's who they are to their
yeah,
core. Yeah.
there's absolutely no cure.
Yeah.
Uh, if somebody's trying to get out, I would have a very well executed, thought out plan,
Mm-hmm.
like your ducks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if need be, go to domestic shelter. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you feel very, very threatened,
Yeah.
uh, therapy truly helps to sort
Mhm.
of sort out your thoughts and stuff.
Yeah.
And just try to remain calm and know that you are worthy of self love and a happy life and peace and unconditional love. Like that's our birth given right.
Yeah. And what we deserve. So were you and are you still nervous about coming on podcasts and talking about him? Has he ever been aggressive in the way of like, I don't want you out there talking about me or telling our story? Or are you like, I don't give a shit. It's my story too.
It's my story. Again, I
Yeah.
don't do this for like retaliation or to throw anybody under the bus. It is my
Yeah.
mission to educate society
Yeah.
and law and policemen because when I was going through it, I had absolutely no idea what was happening. And it wasn't until I did my research and found out, like, wow, I'm not alone in this. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It was kind of a relief to be able to put a label on it
Yeah.
and know it's an actual thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to tell my story. I have to write a book because I want people
Mm-hmm.
to know that they are not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what kinds of methods would you say are most effective for healing after somebody, so they're in this type of abusive relationship and they are able to break free and get out? What do you kind of work with people on for effective ways of healing from these kinds of traumas?
Definitely talking about it because a lot
Yeah.
of the time shame and we sort of push it down.
Mhm.
I think it's very important to sit with the emotions and the feelings to truly
Mhm.
honor them and process them
Mhm.
because we cannot outrun our feelings. You know, it'll
Yeah.
just, if we suppress them, it'll bleed into every area of our life. So
Yeah.
just really talking about the experience and encouraging people to get back to doing what they used to love to do,
Yeah.
find themselves again and surround yourself with loving, supportive people. And there's going to be a lot of grief.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of self blame. And that's okay because these emotions are all normal and healthy.
Yeah.
Feelings are temporary. And once we process them, they will subside.
And what kinds of steps would people do to kind of regain their self-esteem and to be able to trust again? I mean, that has to just be, I know from personal experience, I'm like just from love bombing, someone love bombing me, not even getting to the point of like a narcissistic abuse. And my next, relationship, I'm like very skeptical. I'm very standoffish. My wall is up, and so I'm not trusting even from something so simple as that. But I can't even imagine from something like this, how you get yourself back out there.
I
Yeah.
think it takes time. I think it's different for everyone. It's
Yeah.
not a linear process. Um,
Mhm.
I think just again, listening to our gut, just when something feels off, and if somebody, there's a saying, if they teach you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yeah. How long do
Mhm.
you think it takes to really get to know someone? I feel like I've heard so many different answers to this and, because we see what we want to see in the beginning and what they want to show us, and it's all wonderful and butterflies and we're all excited, and then that moment switches. And so what do you think is kind of the time frame where you're like, not that you're necessarily in the clear because I'm sure it can come out at any time, but was there a point for you that you were you like, okay, I really know this guy and then that happened? Or were you a little bit more skeptical earlier on?
No, that's a great question because this guy blindsided me. Like we were
Yeah.
together for a year and he
Yeah.
pretended to be somebody he was not.
Gosh, see, so that goes against because I've heard, 6 to 8 months. That's when you really know somebody because you're past the honeymoon phase and they kind of, you see who they truly are. But how scary is that for a full year? That's not something you can prepare for, or even I'm sure not something you want. people to live in fear and be skeptical of, because that can happen, right? Where we're like, well, I don't really know them, but at some point, I guess you got to trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword because yeah, you don't want to go around paranoid your whole life with like a big wall up and
Yeah.
scared. I mean, at some point, yeah, we take risks. But I think it is definitely harder with somebody who's been through narcissistic abuse to learn to
Yeah,
trust.
for sure. And did he have family or friends that you associated with or that you knew?
Through him,
Yeah.
like we didn't have mutual friends or like I'm still in contact with his friends and stuff.
Yeah. But no, and nobody kind of gave you like, or maybe they don't know. Sometimes people, their friends and family don't know. But did anybody kind of give you a heads up like, hey, just be careful with this one? Did you?
Actually, his own mother did.
Oh, wow.
We were having a glass of wine one day and she said, "You know, my son is a carbon copy of his father, right?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "He's a narcissist." And at first, I still didn't know what narcissist meant.
Yeah.
And then like a few months later, I was like, wait a second. So I started to Google and do my research on narcissists. And then that's when I realized that he was a narcissist. And it's interesting, his own mom, like, was basically telling me to get out. Just like the way she looked at
Yeah.
she was saying, like, it gave me chills. And
Yeah.
I swear if her eyes could talk, they would be saying, run for the hills.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. And that's hard too, because you don't know when to trust that or not as well, especially like you said, if you were in a great place with him, you don't want to see that at the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, wow. So what role do boundaries play in recovery? I'm sure a huge role. And how can survivors kind of establish those boundaries for going forward and maintain them? Even I think it's harder to maintain them than it is to set them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the experience helps us realize how important boundaries are.
Hmm.
We need people to respect our boundaries. And even if they try to push just a little bit, like that's a big red flag
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure.
And what would you have done differently if you could have set certain boundaries earlier on? Are there things that you've thought about now that you're like, if I'd only done this or I've only done that? Anything that you could maybe give to the listeners that they're like, oh gosh, I should do that.
I should have continued to do me. Like he
Yeah.
made me quit my job.
Mm.
So I wish I'd put my foot down and been like, no, I'm keeping my job and my own money. And I had my own house at the time, which he made me sell. And he wanted me under his cell phone plan and his health insurance and his car,
Complete
everything.
control.
Exactly. So I was left with nothing.
Hmm.
Um, I wish I would have put my foot down and be like, I am going to hang out with my friends. I
Yeah.
am to a yoga class. However, I know the wrath that that would have entailed.
Yeah.
Like, it would have just been ugly and scary, and the kids would have seen it all. And so that's why I sort of made myself as small as possible to
Yeah.
like thrive.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask is knowing what boundaries you need to set, but actually implementing them because of the fear of what will come with that.
You know,
I assume, wouldn't have let you have those boundaries, or that could have caused, definite physical abuse earlier on. You don't
absolutely.
know. Yeah. Wow. So you wrote a book called Rising from Ashes, a testament of strength and survival after this word. Let me say this. So you wrote a book called Rising from Ashes, a testament of strength and survival after narcissistic abuse. So tell us about your book and what you would love for the readers to take away from that book.
So again, writing this book was extremely terrifying for me,
Mm-hmm.
but very healing and empowering. It took me 2 years because I wanted to put every single experience in detail. So
Mm.
I had to like
Wow.
revisit those ugly places, like
Yeah.
smells and smells, and because I wanted to get it all out there. I share many experiences of the good, the bad, the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of information about narcissistic personality disorder. Like, I feel like people will feel like they have their PhD
Mm-hmm.
after reading this book.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Provide a lot of resources, a lot of ways to help cope
Mm-hmm.
with grief and the trauma that ensues afterwards. And again, I just need to get my message out there because people need to understand that narcissistic abuse is 100% real,
Yeah.
and that if you're going through it, you are not alone. And I promise there is a way out, and not
Mm-hmm.
only a way out, but you can heal and thrive. Like, I am
Mm.
the happiest and healthiest I've ever been in my life now. And 2 years ago, I couldn't even talk about it. And
Yeah.
now I stop talking about it because that's how powerful this message is.
Yeah. And I'm sure writing the book actually helped with the grieving process a little bit as well to talk about it. Like you said, that's the biggest thing is we tend to keep it all
Mhm.
inside. So whether it's writing a book or journaling or something just or talking to a friend, I guess, just to get it out will help start that process.
And you really don't realize how much crap you went through until you're telling it to somebody else or until you're writing it down. Then you're like,
Hmm.
oh, wow. Like, I,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. 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 So what practices do you recommend for survivors to kind of maintain like a lifetime self-care and prevent re-entering these types of relationships in the next one? What are they to look out for?
Yes, we need to learn to love ourselves because, as cliche as it is, if we don't love ourselves, we'll attract people that don't love us
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
We need to find our self-worth,
Yeah.
believe in ourselves. We need to do things that make us happy. If that's
Hmm.
a walk on the beach with your dog, or if that's like a long hot bath, or we need to like fill our buckets
Yeah.
and put ourselves first. I know it's very hard and not in a narcissistic way, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self-care is extremely important.
Yeah, and that is definitely the common denominator. And all my podcast episodes that I do, we all know everything is about loving yourself first, and that's going to
Mhm.
allow you to see what's truly in front of you. I think, and not accept that kind of behavior, set your boundaries, do all of those things. So I love that you said that and just really putting yourself first. And it doesn't make you a narcissist
Oh,
because because you're just kind of taking care of yourself. That's a totally different
that-
totally different thing. Oh my gosh, I love that you came on here, Faith, and told us your story. I really applaud you for stepping out and getting out of the situation that you're in. I can't even imagine, I'm a big movie watcher and I see that kind of stuff, and just watching it in the movies is terrifying enough, much less for you to actually have to go through that. So that's just incredible that you were able to get out of it and that you are thriving in the way you are and wrote this incredible book. So where can people find your book?
it's on Amazon.
Okay.
It's on Amazon, and I have all the links on my website,
Okay, perfect. What's your website?
www.faithcecho.com.
Okay.
There's a link to the book. There's a links to my social media. There's a way for people to email me. I love to
Perfect.
hear from people, if I can give them any advice or if they just need to feel validated or whatever. I
Yeah.
really do.
Perfect. And I'll add all that information to the description in the podcast. So before you go, I just want to lighten the mood a little bit. This was such a heavy topic, and I don't mean to take away from that at all. I just want to kind of lift the mood a little bit to end on. So I do a little from Mrs. to Ms. fun facts, this or that, would you rather? And it's relationship driven, pretty easy questions. So number one, would you rather an adventurous date exploring a new city together or a cozy night in with a homemade dinner and movie?
Definitely cozy night in.
You're
Homemade.
are you more of a homebody? You like that?
Yep.
Yeah. If on a deserted island, would you rather sunset skinny dip or midnight beach bonfire?
Sunset skinny dip.
Oh, fun. I love it. Number three, would you rather have a partner who is adventurous and loves spontaneity or one who is consistent and prefers to plan things in advance?
I think consistent and plan
Yeah.
things.
Do you think that's changed maybe a little from your experience? You kind of need to know ahead of time. I would
Exactly.
think. Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. Number
Yep.
four, future plans or present moments.
Present moments for sure.
For sure. Number five, blindfolded surprises or playful role play.
Playful role play.
Number 6, would you rather be with someone who shares all your interests and hobbies or someone who introduces you to new experiences and perspectives?
New experiences and perspectives.
That's fun. I think it's fun to learn. I think that's the coolest thing is trying things that other people do instead of if you have all the same stuff. It's like that's why they say opposites attract. Number
Yeah.
7, soft whispers or lingering touches.
Lingering touches.
Number 8, would you rather have a partner who is highly independent and values alone time or one who enjoys spending most of their free time together as a couple?
Together as a couple.
Yeah. Are you more like that? You enjoy rather than just being by yourself a lot?
For sure.
Yeah. Number 9, slow dancing in the living room or spontaneous dance moves in the kitchen?
Spontaneous dance moves in the kitchen.
And number 10, romantic tease build up or straight for the fireworks?
Um, Both. I guess it depends on the mood.
Yeah. Or the time. Yeah, it could go either way, right? That's fun. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you once again for joining me. If you have anything else to just let the listeners know, just a little takeaway from it, I'll open it up to you just to give a little last few words if you want.
Yes, just don't compromise yourself. You're all
Mhm.
you got, which is what Janis Joplin said. And
Yeah.
just know that you are worthy of love and a happy life and peace. And anything else other than that is simply unacceptable.
Mm, perfect. Thank you once again, Faith, for sharing your story with us today. And to everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. And if you are going through anything like this, we really, really encourage you to get help. I will have all of Faith's information. If she's somebody that you feel that you've resonated with and want to reach out and talk to her, that would be amazing. So you're welcome to do that. And you can find me on any major streaming platform, and you can find me on any social media at from.mrs.2.ms. You guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.